Okay, it is day, I think, 6. Maybe I did the okay thing. It is day 6 of me doing these videos. It's going by way quicker than I thought it would. And as I'm doing this and hitting record and getting the practice of sitting down here, trying to say something every day or make something, it's been a good um routine for me to meditate on what I care about and why I'm doing this at all. Today's another one of those days where it feels pretty hard. Um, I know there's still a lot I want to say, but I can't quite. It's not there anymore. And I had someone recently suggest that, I script these out. And I definitely want to do that at some point. I want to do like video essays and have a proper thesis and articulate that message. I just don't think there's much value in that, both for myself but also the viewer, until I genuinely get comfortable and can kind of channel my own essence or just really show up in front of the camera. I don't want to have a kind of sterile, you know, performance of something. Uh, Even if the video would be decent, I don't think I would enjoy that. I really want it to come from my heart, and even when I do script these out. Um, so the today earlier is very vivid to me. It's not super accessible to me now, but I want to try talking about it because it's one of the ideas that's most important to me, which is this historical question of what happened, that we moved generally from a more mythological, um, how would I say that? A world where the human emotions seem to be primary, and that was expressed through, religions, mythology, but also in the architecture and the language and the way people lived, to one now where seem to be predominantly, um, the world seems to be much more for technology and systems now, and like humans plug into it, um, in a way that seems very different than potentially anything else in human history. And I'm just fascinated by that. I think, for good reason, people might point towards technological innovation as the main driver for why that happened. But I don't know, maybe it's the whimsical, um, what would I call that? The whimsical literary part of me, the part of me, the spiritual part of me, that feels that was something else going on. I have this belief that things don't really tend to occur in people's lives individually, but also collectively. And that's another thing too. I don't think those are work under different principles either. Um, so yeah, individuals or groups of people don't tend to change their reality unless they kind of fantasized about it ahead of time. I don't know if I fully believe that now that I'm saying it out loud, or if that's really what I intended to say. But yeah, I think in general, I don't think you get, something like the Industrial Revolution unless there's a significant amount of people that already, in some sense, are ready for it and want that. So there's something about looking historically and seeing what are potentially, the emotional and spiritual shifts in the collective? And I don't really separate those two, emotional and spiritual. I would consider those the same. That made it so something like the world we live in today is possible. I imagine there's some fantasy underlying it that maybe we're not conscious of. I don't really know, actually. Something about the Enlightenment in that period seems to have caused like the strangest period in human history, the one we live in now, which has so much more technology than any other age, and where nihilism and a secular view of life is the norm. Although this is where I would like to brush up on my history because you know I'm kind of reminded now that I think in ancient Greece and stuff like that, in very large empires, they might have gotten kind of more secular. I'm not sure about that. Um, but yeah, it's strange to me. How did we get here? And I'm not the first to think about this. I was gladly surprised when I went back to uni last year to explore theories of religion to see that um, this seems to be a pretty contemporary issue. People are interested in returning back to romantic notions of having the emotions and the psyche, the subconscious, be seen as kind of sacred and true and meaningful the way more so than objective reality and kind of scientific fact and the empirical way of seeing things, which has definitely become what seems to be dominating the world right now. But there's this interest in and resurgence to return to this kind of spontaneity, um, to trusting our intuitions and stuff like that. And I definitely crave it. I feel caged by, um, Freud called it the superego, or whatever it is, a culture that feels overly, I don't know, feels it's drifted too far away from what it's like to just be human. Um, you see it, the image that was really like illustrated this really well for me in my mind was looking at old architecture versus new ones, where there was attention to detail before to making things beautiful that mattered to people. And I think it mattered to people because um, the emotional felt experience of life was experienced to old like ancient people, but it's not even that ancient. It's 200 years ago as real, just as real as we would think objective reality was. So if something felt, if something gave the sense, the pleasure of beauty, then that was real, um, and that was worthwhile. Whereas now it seems that if you can't measure it in some kind of objective way through tools or statistically, um, it's up for debate and it's not really important. Definitely not as much as turning a profit, um, which almost seems cliche now, but it shouldn't become cliche in the sense that we shouldn't like let it drift to the background. That's still very important. I think it should be a part of the conversation um, that we're having because we are in a strange point where it seems, at least to me, that we're drifting now. There isn't a clear dream that we're after collectively. We're encouraged to kind of pursue our own individual dreams. Um, and even that's not super clear. Within the system we're in, it just, I think a lot of people feel lost. Um, I've felt very, very lost. I feel like my meaning is in kind of just sharing how strange things have gotten. Just the act of doing that gives me meaning. Um, and exploring historically and like culturally what is going on, which is why I want to have this YouTube channel, and my reason to do art as well uh, is in large part driven by that. Um, I think that's gonna be it for today. I'm trying to the perfectionism for me is really really compulsive, um, and I constantly want to move things faster, and get better, do more, that I should put more effort in, but in a paradoxical way that creates a bad relationship with the things that I care about, and then I end up sabotaging them. So I want to make this easy. This is kind of a sandbox for me where, yeah, I'm getting this exposure to just sharing my ideas somewhere semi publicly, but also it means that over time, I'm gathering up my ideas and I can look back and kind of select which are the ones that I want to execute on. And yeah, okay, that's it. I'm gonna chill, go to sleep soon. Peace out.